Welcome to the Coliving with PadSplit podcast, where we talk to successful PadSplit investors and have them share their secrets to success, not only in PadSplit, but in other facets of real estate. This podcast will help you expedite your learning to be a successful investor in the co-living space. We are your hosts, Ray and Oriana Nunez. Show us some love by subscribing and sharing so we can continue to bring on amazing guests.
Hello and welcome to the Coliving with PadSplit podcast. I'm your host, Ray. I got this beautiful woman, Oriana, here.
Thank you.
Wife.
This is Oriana.
And we have Michael Mutz, good friend of ours,
Michael.
on the show. And we're super excited so that you can hear his story, how he continues to educate himself, and also whatever banter we go back and forth with. So I'm super excited for this episode. Welcome to the show.
Michael, we're so excited to have you here. We've been trying to drag you here for a while.
I know.
I know you're a
just
busy
I-4
man.
traffic. No, it's I-4 traffic.
Is that the barrier?
It was. I spent the night at my brother's house out here last night for this,
Appreciate it.
and I left at 4 p.m. yesterday. It took me 2 hours to get to my brother's house, and it's I-4 traffic.
It's
It's
because you
27.
left at 4.
Yeah.
Who does that though?
Well, I needed to take care of some business stuff and pick my kids up from school.
That makes sense.
It's honestly
7 would've been
27, though. That sucks.
What?
That Davenport
Yeah.
exit.
That is
Well, don't worry.
brutal.
Champions Gate.
I asked the mayor of Lakeland about it.
Ooh.
And he said that in 2025 and 2026, they're starting projects on I-4, and also it's a 10-year project. So in 12 years, it'll be all good to go.
It's coming soon.
Our
Anytime.
our kids are going to be able to enjoy the fruits
Our
of this.
kids will, yeah. Yeah, actually, now that I think about that, my daughter will be 16 when that's done.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad traffic's going to be great for her.
Yeah. But also, like, 12 years from now, are they going to be like, hey, we got to start another round?
They just added a bridge in Lake Alfred
Yeah.
at best.
I'm actually really confused about that project.
I don't know. It looks good, though.
Yeah. Well, I know that they had to raise, I also know they had to raise some bridges because there's when they try to bring a train through for,
Lakeland has that low bridge.
they had to raise some bridges so that the trains can go through whatever the train company is.
Yeah. Oh,
The Sunrail.
Sunrail. Yeah, it's for Sunrail to go down the middle of I-4 eventually.
Interesting. Makes sense.
That's why it
Lakeland's
sucks
trying
for
to
us.
Lakeland's trying to negotiate to get them to add a stop there. We
Where
did.
the
That would
Amtrak
be
is.
brilliant. I mean,
It would be
Lakeland is
awesome.
blowing up,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, Lakeland just the mayor and the commission just negotiated to bring an airline to Lakeland. Avello Airlines is now flying
Which
out of
one?
Lakeland.
Avello.
Avello.
Damn.
I don't know them.
This mayor's
yeah,
fantastic.
This mayor is pretty bomb.
He's a really good guy. Yeah, so the airline is flying to maybe like they just keep adding places. They really
Cool.
like Lakeland.
I like that.
I mean, Lakeland is pretty cool.
So we have the Amtrak. That food hall is looking like a genius, whoever owns that.
Oh yeah, I rode the Amtrak up to Raleigh with my kids.
Did you?
Just for fun.
Ooh. And
Mhm.
how was it?
It was
It was a fun experience.
Yeah, we got
It must have been.
a first class tickets. We got
Yeah.
like a little room.
Amtrak is expensive, so
It was expensive though.
It's pricey.
for the 2 rooms for the 4 of us. It was like $800 one way.
might as well fly a
Yeah,
Velo.
that's when you
instead.
realize you're like, let's take a flight.
Yeah,
Go rent that car.
But for
instead.
the experience, that's pretty cool.
we did it because the kids like love trains.
Well, bro, okay, so I met you through PadSplit, and you apparently do way more than PadSplit. When did you get into
you
real
do
estate?
so much.
I was a pastor until 2020, and then I wanted to do real estate full time. I will say before that, like for the like 2012 to 2020, my wife and I got married in 2012. My wife and I bought like 3 rentals during that period of time, and then we sold those in 2019 to start, and then I started doing real estate full time in 2020. We bought our first flip off of auction.com and
Nice.
made like 20 grand on it, which was nice.
And you had experience or guidance from anyone at that point?
No,
Or
at
you
that
were
point,
just like,
I was just like, we should just do a flip.
let's just try this
So I
out.
was actually in Honduras at the time for a
Mission?
for a missions thing, and I was driving back through the mountains on auction.com trying to win the bid for this house, for this condo.
And you got to be on your phone, like every second counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, last second bidders.
And I won it, and I did win it. And then we made like 20 grand on it.
Nice.
And then from there, then we started doing real estate full time. And I bought a Home Investors We Buy Ugly Houses franchise. But now I'm probably going to sell it because it doesn't have the value, in my opinion, that it did once have. It's good. What it's good for is if like you're first going into real estate, they hook you up with some cool stuff, and it's like a nice little system to help you figure it out. I do feel like eventually it's not as necessary.
You pay to learn.
You just gain the experience.
Yeah. Once you know how to do it, it's like you can go get your own leads.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, like we got into real estate working for a wholesale operation. We dropped signs, and we submitted offers and we went up the ladder. So you're going to learn one way or another. You pay for a program, you pay for a class, or you pay
sweat
for
equity.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yeah, interesting. Like. Yeah, how'd you end up getting connected to PadSplit, or have you already talked about this on the show enough times?
No, I'm happy. This is just conversation.
Yeah, this is between us. We come from wholesaling, both of us. I went into a hedge fund, kind of like I always wanted to do hedge fund acquisitions, and I was able to do that.
They were the buyers at a particular time in the market.
Correct. It was 2020. Who was buying if it was not like a large fund?
Yeah.
Right. And some investors that were more daring, I guess, because there was so much uncertainty about the market. Like nothing was moving. Nobody knew what was happening. But so I went into that, and we were just looking at another form of real estate to do because I was already doing that, and then he found PadSplit.
Yeah, she found PadSplit. So I wanted to work at the hedge fund. She wanted to work at PadSplit. We kind of both applied, and she got hired at the hedge fund. I got hired as the first person in Florida to represent PadSplit. That shit was just an abstract concept. It's like, oh, Florida market, PadSplit, God knows what. I told my first 3 investors about that for my buyers.
What was their reaction? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
They're like, fuck that.
Because PadSplit started in 2019.
2017
in Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
But they opened Florida in 2021.
Okay.
And before that, like 6 months before, they opened Texas. So it was just Atlanta and then Texas, and then I was the third hire in the department.
Okay.
And that's how we got into PadSplit. Then I kind of anchored her into PadSplit as hedge funds were kind of going to shit.
And it's funny because the test, kind of like one of the pre-approvals was like, I need you to contact 10 investors, share this concept, and get us feedback.
None of my investors liked that.
And it was like, this is ridiculous. This is insane. That's stupid. It's not going to work. Blah.
I was like hesitant about it. And then a few investor friends did it. And then basically like when rents started going up in 2022, early 2022, I was refinancing. I started flipping houses because I wanted to keep long-term rentals. And then I forgot about it because I was just making good money flipping houses.
Right.
And so when I was like, okay, yeah, I do need to keep some rentals. In 2022, I started refinancing my first one. Rates were going up. Mm-hmm. Like I still snagged like a 6.5% rate, which like now that's fine. That's a good rate.
Yep.
But at the time I was like, this sucks. And I lined up to put somebody into it. And by the time they were going to sign to move into it, I was like, I'm only going to make $100 a month on this. I was like, this just doesn't feel like that worth it.
The property's just paying off.
Yeah. I'm like, this is kind of dumb now. And so then I went back to those friends and was like, what do you guys think about PadSplit? And they were like, oh, we're going to do this with everything that we have. It was like Albert and Frankie. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to do it then. So then I went and converted it, and I make like $1,500 a month on that PadSplit. I'm like, in 1 month, I make more than I was going to make in a year.
Yep.
Prior to that. So.
And you're building equity, and you have tax benefits.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, like if you want to go sell the house, you're gonna have to convert it back to a normal house, probably, unless you have a bunch of them and you go try to sell them to a hedge fund or something.
Unless you sell a PadSplit.
Yeah.
So how many rooms was your first one?
The first one has 6 rooms. It's an 1,100 square foot 6.2.
Nobody would believe that you can make.
To be fair, it does have a garage, and one of the rooms is in the garage. I'm not counting that in the 1,100 square feet, but still, it was a 4.2 when I bought it. So I only put 2 new rooms into it.
That's super understandable. We have similar thing in a Jack's property. It's 1,100 square feet. We had 6 bedroom, 3 bath, but there was like an ADU garage storage unit that turned into a bathroom and a bedroom. So,
interesting.
Similar thing. People go 6 rooms out of 1,100 square feet. Gotta be creative.
Yeah, I do love walking through houses, trying to figure out how many rooms I can stick in them.
Your brain is now operating.
It is, yeah, yeah. I'm like, what can we do here, and how can we think through this? I do really like, basically like looking at houses and figuring it out. And I use an app called QB Casa, which maybe I told you about.
Yep.
Maybe you told me about.
Probably.
We don't know, but I told you the other time, and you're like, I told you about it. So
yeah,
I don't know who told who.
I can't remember, but one of us found it.
We share it so much.
Yeah.
And people get hooked instantly.
It's
They're
so
like, I love this.
nice
I'm like,
to just walk through and
Super cool.
yeah. Oh, so I sent you a house and was like, I'm trying to figure out if I should keep this or not, which is in Tampa that I'm making into a 10-bed, 3-bath house.
Ooh.
And you basically took it and drew on my QB Casa, and I was like, okay, yeah, I should do this. So thanks.
I love it. On the MacBook, just screenshot and start.
Yeah, you're really good at
just
that.
draw stuff.
I've learned from you to do that. How many PadSplits do you currently have? Like how many?
Okay, I have 3
you
active.
mainly focus on single families to do PadSplits?
I have, I've got a bunch of long-term rentals and then some short-term rentals.
Okay.
And then some PadSplits. But I have 3 PadSplits, and then I have one that we're about to launch, a 4th one we're about to launch, 2 that I'm renovating that we're going to make into PadSplits, 1 that I'm renovating that's a long-term rental that I own that we're just switching it over to a PadSplit, and then 1 that I'm taking subject to from somebody and then making into a PadSplit.
And you're still flipping?
So somebody can count the number that
yeah,
was.
we were like
Please.
3, like maybe 7 or 8.
Yeah,
single family,
something like that.
Which in PadSplit world that could be like over 40 units.
Yeah, yeah. So
40 plus.
So I've got the ones that I have right now are 5 beds, 6 beds, and 6 beds, and then about to launch a 7-bed, and then I'm working on a 10-bed and 8-bed, another one that should be 7, and then another one that'll be 6 or 7.
You know, it's funny.
Again, somebody can do the math on that.
Some people start off going heavy room counts and then work their way back into 5, 6, 7 bedrooms instead of starting off at like 8, 9, 10 bedrooms. But you're starting at a low room count going upwards.
Yeah, I actually don't know how I'm
diversified.
I don't know how I'm gonna feel about the 10-bedroom one. But we'll see.
They work surprisingly better than you think.
Yeah,
and you don't have as many cars still. Like we have we have 3 bedrooms. Maybe one of them has 4, but has capacity of 4. And the other 2 are just 1 car per house.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that there's like an ideal room count for you, income wise?
I kind of like that
fits better.
Yeah, I kind of like the 6. The one that I have 5 bedrooms, I'm like, I would really wish I could add one more. But that's just because if you go look at the profitability of it, it's like, well, if I could get one more, this would just be absolutely killer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that 10-bedroom one, even with rates where they're at, like we should make like $2,000 a month on it. Sweet. After everything, including holding money for future repairs. And so I'm excited about it. But the other thing that I've been doing, which I think is really interesting for these, because cash is hard to come by, especially in my opinion, where the market is right now, is we're buying stuff, renovating it into a normal looking house, refinancing it. I stage them and then I refinance them, and then converting it. And I go get a second loan. What I've been doing is getting a second loan for my conversion and furniture side of things, like just putting up the walls and buying furniture, and then getting private investors to let me pay them back amortized over a 2 or 3 year period.
Nice.
And so it's taking stuff that's like, okay, maybe I'm going to make $1,800 a month off of it 3 years from now, and instead I'm paying them like $1,000 or $1,100 to amortize the $30,000 that I need
conversion cost.
Yeah, to convert it
and renovation.
But I'm still making $700 or $800 a month on it, and I'm like, I would be thrilled about any long-term rental that made $700 or $800 a month.
Absolutely.
Like that's still really worth it. And then I'm just kind of like 2 or 3 years from now for each of these, it'll just be a nice bonus to jump from that to like $1,800.
Right. How are your short terms performing right now? Because I think there's people that are crushing still, and then some people that
I would say I'm not crushing. Well, one, okay.
I'll try not to laugh at it.
I don't like. I laugh at it. Okay, one of them. Basically, the first one that I got was like, I had it on the market. Somebody backed out of the contract. The lender called me and was like, "Hey, I really want an Airbnb here," and he was like talking to me about it. And while he was on the phone, I was like, "No, I want an Airbnb there." And then I got off the phone with him because he was like, "Oh, I want to go out and take a look at it," and I was like, "No, I want to take a look at it." And so I was like, "Oh, if I cash out refi this, I can pull like 60 or 70 grand out,
nice,
and keep it as a loan because I bought it in early 2021, so it had a lot of equity, and I ended up keeping it, but it is in between Sarasota and Venice, so it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's in Nokomis, so it is 5 minutes from the beach, but it's just not in like a great spot. So so for a lot of the year, it just doesn't do that well. And for that one, I'm like kind of on the fence. Do I just make it a PadSplit, like go convert it to a PadSplit and keep it that way, or just keep running it as an Airbnb and kind of breaking even on it? But then in December of last year, December 2023, we launched another house with a pool in Largo, and that one is crushing it. Like that one is doing great.
I mean, Largo is very desirable, nice, for sure.
It's not really that close to the beach. Like it's probably 30 minutes from the beach, but still, it's in the middle of a city. Like it's a good, it's a good one, and it has a pool. And then we have a third one that I partnered with somebody on in Indian Rocks Beach, which we bought to flip.
I like Indian Rocks.
Yeah, we bought to flip it, and the market had kind of pulled back. So we like got it down to a price where we'd break even on it, and we were like, let's just keep it. So we refied it, launched it. 1 month later, a hurricane came and flooded it.
Dang.
So we're almost finished.
Was that Helene?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're almost finished putting it back together, and then we'll put it back on the market. Yeah.
It had bad. Sorry. Let me just ask this one.
Yeah, sure.
Just to keep it in the same house. When those short terms were doing really good, I'm just curious, what were you profiting? Like how we're saying, like PadSplit is giving you $1,500, $1,800 a day. What were those actually net?
The house in Nokomis has pretty much been like kind of the same. So it's like it's just breaking even.
Okay.
For the most part, like maybe I think my mortgage on it is maybe like $2,500 a month, and we're probably making $2,500 a month, or maybe a tiny bit more. The one in Largo, that one we're doing really well on. We're probably pulling in like $5,000 a month.
Okay,
and
that's nice.
Paying 32. I think 32 is maybe that mortgage payment. So that one's nice. My only thing, if I'm talking to people about PadSplit, is I'm like, for the Airbnb, even if I was making a marginally larger amount of money on it, it is 1,000 times more work because you have guests that are like coming in and out all the time, and all of them are expecting to have this like perfect experience, like they're going on vacation, like they're expecting it to be like a hotel. The people in the PadSplits are there to live and work. Like I had some neighbors in one of my properties while we were renovating it. They asked one of my contractors something about it, and this is a good learning lesson for me, is coach your contractors. And the contractor was like, I think he's making this a halfway house. Oh, gosh. And so they called the city.
Especially the
and
wording.
Then the city called me, and I was like, no, it is not a halfway house. Although Lakeland. I could make it a halfway house. Yeah, that was in Lakeland.
I remember when you messaged me.
Yeah, I was like, where do I go from here?
Let me talk to the mayor.
Yeah. Sorry, we keep talking about the mayor of Lakeland. That the mayor of Lakeland is my dad, for people who are listening to this.
It was like an inside joke.
Yeah, it is an inside joke, but we'll let you guys. Yeah, we'll let you on the inside. So the person from the city basically called me and was like, "Hey, I looked up this company. I saw it was you, and I just thought I'd give you a call." And so I told him about PadSplit. I told him what it was, and I was like, "Lakeland's already got a bunch of these. Go look at it." And I hadn't done this to the neighbors, but I do this for each of my PadSplits. I go introduce myself to the neighbor on the left and right and across the street and catty cornered across the street so that I can be like, hey, this is my house. This is what it is. This is why you're going to like it more than an Airbnb. And here's my phone number if you want to call me. I just hadn't done that yet because we hadn't actually launched it.
Okay,
I don't know
so
many
you
people
tell them,
who do that.
You tell them it's going to be a PadSplit.
Yeah, I'm like, this is sometimes. Sometimes I'm
Okay.
like, this is my rental.
Okay.
But for this one, I was like, it's going to be a PadSplit. And I was like, here's why you're going to like it. You're not going to have any problems with it. And it's in an Airbnb, some random person can come throw a party next to you. I was like, that's not going to happen. All these people are getting background checked. They're checking their finances. They're placing them. And they're going to just live in this place. Like they're going to go to work and come back from work. And it's going to be quiet. And I've never had somebody call me about one of my PadSplits.
It's nice.
But they all have my card.
What was
and they
the
can.
feedback when you shared those news with that?
Yeah, with the
neighbor?
people. Yeah, they were like, oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know. And they were like, cool, we'll call you if there's a problem. But I just would always rather somebody call me.
Right. Then the city, absolutely.
Than the city.
No doubt.
So for me, it's definitely worth the risk to just go knock on a door and talk to people. Even if you end up not getting most of the people, but you talk to one neighbor, neighbors talk to neighbors. So
All the time.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. And people don't talk about that. And some people would rather not tell the neighbor for whatever reason.
Yeah, but if you've got like 5 cars parked in there, they're not always the same cars.
We've
Yeah.
chosen not to. We did have a very difficult neighbor at one property when we were doing renovation. She was complaining about dust and noise sound levels, and like
We paid her off.
she was like, look, you damaged my vehicle paint. So we had to do like a detail car
Yeah.
on her.
That's totally worth it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
How much will it take to get you to stay quiet?
Yeah, no, I've done that for people
Like,
where I'm
let's
like,
keep you happy.
Yeah. I haven't read this book yet, but I imagine it's a good book called Unreasonable Hospitality. I just ordered it. And one of my friends who's a real estate investor is pretty hot on this book at the moment. But for me, I get the concept of it. Is it's like, yeah, go talk to the neighbor, be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, yeah, let me detail your car, or let me have somebody do your, like I had somebody drove over one of my neighbor's yards with a truck, and I was like, let me get that resodded for you.
Right.
Like, whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Agreed.
Just downloaded the book.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Appreciate it.
I haven't read it, so if it sucks, sorry. But I have a business partner for a majority of my long-term rentals, and sometimes he wants to get really like snippety with people, and I'm like, hey man, let's just be good hosts.
Yep.
Agreed. Everyone's happier.
You'll attract more with honey for sure. I was gonna ask and go into a lot of the more successful PadSplit hosts that I've noticed when it comes to scaling have come from conversion of long-term rentals.
Or short term.
How do you determine what is something that you're willing to convert when looking at like, hey, this is performing, and what things are you actually looking at?
Yeah, now basically, if I'm gonna buy something and hold it, I want to hold it as a PadSplit. So like that's kind of my approach. I'm just converting one of my long-term rentals for the first time, and I'd probably like to do that. They're just kind of like in really random places.
Yep.
There are 2 in Jacksonville, and one of them we have listed for rent right now. I don't know. Maybe we should have made a PadSplit. We can talk about that later. But for pretty much, I think where I'm standing on this at the moment is if there's a house that needs work, because the 21 long-term rentals, this partner and I bought from somebody a year ago, and he owner financed them to us.
Oh, that one, yep.
Yeah, he owner financed them to us at 4%, which is awesome.
Beautiful.
And they sold them to us under market, and all of the houses are really under rented. So we're like really slowly going through them. We don't want a bunch of vacancies, and we don't have the cash to go fix them all up.
Right.
So we're trying to carefully go through these, but one of them needed a whole lot of work, and somebody left before we had hoped. And I was like, let's just go raise money and make this into a PadSplit. So that's the one that we're converting, because I'm like, we're already going to do all this work on it. We can't refinance it. We can't go get another loan on it. We'll just make it a PadSplit, and it will cash flow way, way better. And that one's kind of that's in Auburndale. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So
There's a PadSplit there already.
Yeah, I did see that actually. I was encouraged by that.
I know it is performing well.
I
know who it is.
Okay, I was gonna say it's a guy that was on our show, but yeah, he has an Auburndale and he has a Lakeland property, and it seems random. A lot of these properties seem random. I mean, to be honest, until you talk to us and we're like, okay, cool. You're close to the mall in Lakeland, makes sense. The early Plant City properties, it was a conversion from
Plant City,
and they do good.
Yeah.
It's a guy who had a lot of properties, and randomly, hey, I got a property in Plant City, I got a property in Brandon, I have a property in wherever, and it's, let's take a look at it. What are you making? $800? Fantastic. Could you make 15? Great. Make it into a PadSplit.
Yeah.
Like if it's a certain margin, but
Sure.
kind of wanted to get into like your mindset. How much would you like to see on your returns for it to make sense on any property?
I mean, for me, like cash flow matters a lot to me. I think future equity is a great bonus for me personally. I'd rather see cash flow now and then just kind of take equity that's growing as a bonus and paying down the loan as a bonus, because obviously, I would love to have just interest only loans, because it's basically a forced savings account, which kind of sucks because I'd rather have more cash. But for me, I'm like, if I want to maximize cash flow, it just makes sense to make it a PadSplit. Unless for some reason it's in some area where it wouldn't make sense or it costs too much to convert it. I don't know. Like there's certainly going to be outliers where it probably doesn't make sense.
Yep.
But I haven't actually gone and run the numbers on that Nokomis Airbnb to see what do I think I could make and what would it cost me to go convert it. But also we're going to make a bunch of money on it in December. But also that's kind of just, it's lulling me into feeling like it's going to be good, because in March I'm going to be like, actually this sucks. I don't want this Airbnb. Right. But I haven't gone and run the numbers on it. So some of that too is I just need to go find the time to do it. Because if I could know that that's going to make whatever X amount of money for me, then I'd probably much rather take that.
Right.
And if I went and sold it now, I wouldn't get all that much cash from it. So I've kind of kicked the can on selling it too, and kind of been like, all right, even if we're kind of breaking even on it, at least we're going to gain equity down the road.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm an advisor for something called First Deal, and if anybody wants more information on it, they can reach out.
Is it like a mastermind?
Yeah, First Deal is Brandon Turner's mastermind,
Okay.
and I'm an advisor for it. Which basically the point of First Deal is, if you want to buy your first deal, there are some people who've joined it and they have one deal or two deals, and they're just they're not really sure how they got it, or they just want to grow in the mastermind. Basically, Brandon Turner teaches once a week on it, and then you can book individual calls. You get 2 hours a quarter that you can book with an advisor one-on-one and walk through stuff. So I'm helping people underwrite properties, or helping them figure out what their next steps are, whatever their bottleneck point is, helping them overcome it. There's more to it than that, but for my role in First Deal is basically sitting down with people. And somebody came and was like, hey, I'm looking at this PadSplit. This is what I can offer for it. This is what I can buy it for, blah, blah, blah. We're walking through the whole thing, and he was like, my cash on cash return is 2.7%. And I was like, hey man, this is not a deal. I was like, you should not be this. You can go find a different house, but this is not the house for you on it. So to answer your question, yeah, it's gotta be better than a 2.7% cash on cash return. I would say probably most of the a decent PadSplit feels like it's probably more like 15%.
Agreed.
I don't know. You guys do
cash
it more
on
than
cash,
me.
right?
Like cash on cash, yeah.
Which you don't find that often in today's market with any other strategy.
I don't know that you can. I think one of the things that makes PadSplit really attractive right now is that it would be, unless you're going to leave a lot of equity in a property or you get a screaming good deal, it would be really hard to positively cash flow on a long-term rental with rates where they are right now. And again, it could be possible to do it. You could find something off market that that's dilapidated and force a bunch of equity into it through a renovation and refinance it and cash out, but not maximize how much you're cashing out and then make money on it. It would just be hard.
And I would say that even converting a PadSplit can be costly.
Yeah.
But let's assume that you are interested in doing short term. It's even more costly to set up a short term.
Yeah.
That is going to be a really nice one. Because we've seen tons of like grandma, short term rentals. And they're all right. There's also a client for that. But I feel like the ones that are crushing have these wow factors, and it's costly to even
themes,
get there.
Near beach.
Yeah, but even short-term rentals, I think, are hard in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so my
There's
lender,
so many options.
yeah, my lender actually sent me a townhouse in Davenport, maybe 20 minutes from Disney, that she's listing. She's also an agent, so she's listing it for a guy. And she texted me and asked about a PadSplit. I haven't actually finished the research on it, but I was like, would he let me take it from him subject to? But it's like, it's a short-term rental friendly townhouse community. So I'm like, maybe I could make a PadSplit in there. I haven't really looked into it, but he bought it. Somebody sold it to him as like, this will be, a really profitable thing for you. And he bought it in 2022 and he took out HELOC to help him buy it, and so he's making payments on his HELOC and his mortgage and a $650 a month HOA payment.
He's underwater.
And and it's not getting booked. And I'm like, yeah, Orlando doesn't feel like a great spot for new Airbnbs. Like maybe if you've got a tenured one, it would be nice.
We've just built so many communities catered towards short term.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
There's so many options. I had a potential client that was interested in converting his short-term community. If the community had 80 units, 55 of them were being sold.
Yeah.
Because nobody was profiting. That's more than half of the community that's not really
that's
doing
wild.
well.
Yeah, it's built-in competition with the same standard features.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's in. I actually like before she said this to me, I was like, I didn't know there's like townhouse Airbnb friendly communities. Like, what does that even mean? Like, that made me like, oh, maybe I could put a PadSplit in here if they're like friendly to Airbnbs.
They might set limitations. I've seen this before.
Yeah, we're
where
always kind of
they'll put a cap on how many days a person can actually stay inside that community.
Yeah, okay.
That's the one thing, and it might say like 15 days or no more than 30 days. And since PadSplit signs a lease with you for a year, that might not work out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I haven't looked it up because I think you guys generally say you should probably stay away from HOA.
Even if they're friendly.
Financially, $650 on anything sucks.
Oh, and then the hurt.
It's wild.
The hurt. And I think another thing is what I do see happening is that those communities will end up accepting other type of strategies because they're not making money neither.
Right, yeah,
Investors are probably going to, bankrupt. So they'll probably have to expand a little bit. But I don't know how long that's going to take for us to even get there.
Yeah, that would be one thing that I feel like a lot of people feel skeptical about with PadSplit. Like the new investors that I'm talking to, they're like, "Well, how long until we get all the restrictions that Airbnb has?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like I can see what you're saying. Airbnb's been around for like 20 plus years." I don't know how long they've been around.
Like 15 plus.
Yeah, but like a long time, and those restrictions are coming into place. I would say probably more in blue states. Blue. I always get these mixed up. Like it's probably more like California and stuff like that than it is Florida. So I'm like Florida feels like it's going to be like way down the road for restrictions on PadSplits versus other places. And I was like, the thing is about PadSplit is like in 1 year, you can make all the money that you would need to go convert it back. So it feels like a pretty risk-free investment. Nothing's risk-free, but whatever. Like for those whatever policies to come into place, like that's going to be way down the road, and you're going to have heads up about it. And if you've got to go convert your house back to a normal house, like you've got the cash flow that you can save to do that.
Let's expand on that because I have my opinion on restrictions, and I know that you also have a take on it. So for me, restrictions with short term are so related to lobbyists and to these big corporations
maybe
that
so.
own hotels that they're like, you guys are messing with our money.
Yeah.
Like, stay out of our lane.
But
right?
I just stayed at an Airbnb in Vegas, and the host met us at the Airbnb and was like, "Hey, please call your Uber. Ask them to pull into the driveway. Go out to the car. Don't wait outside for them. Wait until they're in the driveway. Like blah blah blah." And she was like, "Lobbyists and hotels are trying to shut Airbnb down here."
Absolutely. It makes sense.
And I was like,
And because they're competing strictly with,
Yeah.
you know, hotels and these big corporations, we don't really have a competition. We're providing that real solution that the government is not able to provide.
right, yeah,
So do I see us having regulations? I do, but I don't see us being banned or completely,
yeah.
you know, eliminated from a city.
The newer investors, basically, I'm like, hey, if you want to feel secure, call your municipality or whatever and ask how many unrelated people
Can
do you
live in a
allow.
property.
And if they say 5, then make sure your PadSplit cash flows with 5 rooms.
Yep.
And then you can put more in there and hope you don't get caught. But if you do get caught and you need to make it 5 rooms and you looked through it and you made sure it cash flowed, then you should be okay.
I agree.
I'm really good with what you just said, because ultimately I like to tell people to underwrite not at 100%, not at really high rate, and always look at the possibility of you having to remove a room. And if you're fine with that, then fantastic, move forward, because at the end of the day, there are long-term investors that are struggling that don't make any money with an AC going out, and there goes your year's profit.
Yeah.
So this is just your ability to be able to make money in today's market.
Well, the second thing is, and something that I find really, really funny is people are talking so much about wanting affordability for people, and this really does provide that. It's just people want affordability, but not next to them.
Yeah.
And
We call them NIMBYs.
yeah,
Not in
and-
my backyard.
yeah, and I'm like, it's just so ironic. Like, don't stick your little flags outside to try to advocate for this stuff, and then get mad
Yeah.
when it's happening next to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, don't be fake.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So I want to expand on your masterminds, because you, as you mentioned, for 7 years, you did invest in, but you didn't do it at a level that you've seen your growth in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And
Scaled.
so from 2020 is where it feels like you've gotten serious to today. It's only 4 years. What has education played a role in your growth, and how has masterminds or groups really helped you in any of this?
Yeah. So, I'm a part of a bunch of random, maybe not random masterminds, but
I'm like, they're not random.
so I'm a part of a mastermind called Flippers Anonymous.
Okay.
That's with a guy named Tarl Yarber. He's best friends with Brandon Turner. So it's, maybe not random because they know each other. And then I'm part of Maui Mastermind, which is something that Tarl and Brandon do together. And then I'm doing this First Deal thing. And then I also am in Brandon Turner's Better Life Tribe. So I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm involved in all of those things. And then I own a Home Investors franchise. And what I do like about the Home Investors franchise is, like, there's a nice core group of people that are in the same market as me. And I'm friends with some of those people. And I like them. Like, I like getting to see them. But I would say, actually, if I can scoot back to something from earlier, is I remember listening to all these podcasts, and people would get on a podcast and they'd be like, had nothing, and then I bought 21 rental properties, owner financed at 4% from it, and I'm like, how the crap are these people finding this stuff?
He's the case now.
And then in First Deal, I was doing a thing with my I was on one of my one-on-one calls, and somebody was asking me about it, and I was like, I don't really love to say how many units I have, because it feels like posturing or trying to brag. And the thing that I think is really funny is somebody could have 15,000 units, and my 30 or whatever it is that I have, I intentionally actually just do not know the exact number. I know it's like around 30. I just don't know the exact number. I could go count it.
30. No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
It's not exactly 30. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. My point being is like, there could be somebody with 15,000 units and it's like, gosh, I know nothing. And then there could be somebody with 1 and they're like, oh, this guy has 30. He's a real expert. And I'm like, man, I am not an expert. There's people with 100, like whatever. It's to me, I'm like, I just don't care all that much. But the girl who I was talking to was like, well, it actually does help us to know who's coaching us. And I was like, all right, fine, I can go figure this out. And I told it to them. And then after I told it to them, I was like, oh, there's backstory missing. So I ended up like going back to everybody and being like, hey, there's backstory missing. Like you're just hearing, I started in 2020. I had 0 rentals in 2020. And then in 2024, I have X whatever amount. And I was like, I should tell you that in 2012, my wife and I bought a cheap townhouse instead of a nice, cute historic house that all of our friends were buying because I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I was like, we're going to pay $550 a month on our mortgage so that we can save money so we can buy a rental. And so we spent 2 or 3 years saving and we bought a rental, and then we didn't spend any of that money and we saved more and we bought another rental. And then we found a cute historic house that had an ADU that we could move into and then rent the house out that we were living in and cash flow $200 more a month, but
House hacking.
have another asset. And so we did that. And then we sold all those things and then flipped something and then took that money and then started what we were doing now. So I was like, you should know that it wasn't like 0 to 50 in 4 years. It was like we had 4 properties in 2020. We sold some to start what we were doing. And then the second thing, coming to the 21 rentals, and this is something I feel like is really important. If people know that you do real estate, then opportunities come to you because they know that you do real estate. So like I did not originate the 21 properties. That lead went to my business partner from a relationship he had, but he needed money for it and he knew he couldn't buy it without a partner who could do private money. And I've raised, I don't know, $7 or $8 million of private money for stuff. So he came and was like, do you think you could raise money for this? And I was like, well, let me underwrite the deal, which I did. And I was like, I feel really good about this. 3 years from now, like we're making nothing on it right now, which is another ironic thing is people are like, oh, you've got all these properties, like you're super rich. And I'm like, yeah, I've got no money. But that's possible. All right. Yeah. Like, do I think 10 years from now I'll be fine? Yes, I do.
That's right. But real estate is not a get quick rich game.
No.
Like this is a long-term play, no matter what strategy you choose to do.
Yeah. Brandon Turner says that a lot. And I like that reminder.
It's true.
It's like, it's not get rich quick. It's get rich in time.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. Like I'm a patient person and I want to be available to my kids, my wife, like I and my friends. So I say this has been one long spiel for me, but all of that to say, like, if you're doing real estate and people know that and you're doing it slowly, eventually other opportunities will come. And the people on podcasts talking about the person who sold them a 50-unit apartment complex out of the blue, like there's probably a reason that happened. And maybe they spent all their days and nights going and trying to find some deal, and you can get a deal if you're spending a bunch of time doing it. So so I say all that to say, like, usually it does feel like on a podcast you're missing some piece of background, and I'm like, I don't know, all the people that I've ever heard on these podcasts, did they just have a dad who gave them like $100 million? I don't know.
Yeah, and you don't fall an opportunity by mistake. I mean, honestly, you wouldn't have been able to 12 years ago execute on that deal.
Definitely not.
I don't feel confident doing a creative deal myself. Like today, I understand the concept. I understand, the whole bit of it. I just don't. I've never negotiated on that. That's our way of acquiring our properties were BRRRR.
Yeah,
and that's what we've been able to sharpen on. So
yeah. I've bought a few subject to deals, but I've never, apart from the one that I'm about to close, I've never originated a subject to deal. So like my wife and I were just finishing renovating a house, and I forgot we do have another long-term rental. We moved out of that house with the ADU into the house that we're moving into now, and we're renting that other one out as a long-term rental. But we're paying somebody else's mortgage on the house that we've been renovating. Like we took that subject to it and we're waiting to refinance it because it has a $50,000 IRS tax lien, and those disappear after 10 years. So in 2026, as long as the government doesn't come look at it again, then that money that is kind of like baked into what we had to buy it for will just go away, and we'll get $50,000 back for free.
Nice.
And so we're kind of like kicking the can on the refi for that, and hopefully rates will be less. When we bought it, rates were 2.5%, and
Of course.
so it like it's not going to be as comfortable as we were hoping.
Mm-hmm.
But like 10 years, like this is the last house. I don't need buy another house for my family. Like this is going to be the house for my family. So I'm like 15, 20 years from now, it'll be fine. The renovation was way worse than I thought.
Usually is.
Yeah, it's an old Queen Anne Victorian house that was built in 1908, and hoarders were in it. So yeah.
Is it 1 floor or 2 floor?
It has to be beautiful.
It is
though.
2 floors, and then we converted the attic to a 3rd floor.
I've never seen a
Nice.
1 floor Victorian house.
Oh, I
That's
want
why
to
I
see
asked.
it.
Yeah, you should come see it. It is
Yes.
really beautiful. My wife does freelance writing and editing. I can't get her to help me with real estate except for design. She'll help me with design, and she's just good at design. So the house is really beautiful. She did a great job with it.
We're definitely
I'm not
visiting.
surprised.
Or at least having coffee around the block. Because I know you have to be close to Florida Ave.
I am like 4 or 5 streets. Yeah, we're like 2 streets over from the school I can't think, Florida Southern, which is Frank Lloyd Wright's the largest group of Frank Lloyd Wright design buildings in America.
We love the buildings out there.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So we have some questions.
Yeah, I like these.
Yeah, I do like these. These are investor questions.
So these
that
were
submitted.
submitted from our audience, and I feel like in every episode we try to bring a lot of these frequently asked
That's
questions.
a good idea, yeah.
So we have a couple for you. So try to keep it like short and sweet because we have a few.
It's 10. So I'll start off. What is your preferred method for acquiring PadSplit properties? MLS, off market, etc.
Yeah, almost every house that I bought off market.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I feel really good about doing, and maybe my background as a pastor has helped with that because I'm really good at sitting and having hard conversations with people. I love sitting in a living room with somebody and figuring out if I'm a good fit to solve a problem for them. And I'm totally fine to, like, for me, my mindset is if it's more important for me to buy this house than solve the problem for the person trying to sell it, then I don't deserve to buy it. So for me, I will tell people, you have a better option. You can go do this thing with your house. And ironically, I've bought a lot of houses from those people because they're like, oh, I just trust you. Like, this is the route that I want to go. And I wasn't saying that to gain their trust. I was saying that because I was like, this is a better option for you.
But I love that you're doing it with such a good conscience.
Yeah.
That comes back to you tenfold by them being like, I really like you.
Yeah,
Like,
well-
I would rather do business with you.
And sometimes, like, people can blow people up for buying something under market. Like, sometimes that is actually what, like, people have a deadline or it's not going to fit as a listing, whatever, stuff like that. Like, it is a good idea to sell it. So to answer your question, I would rather sit in a room with somebody. But you can definitely buy stuff off MLS, just not as good margins.
Mm-hmm.
You want to ask or flip
No, you
flop?
got it. You got it.
Okay, so do you typically self-manage your PadSplits or do you use property management services?
So I have an employee, and she manages my Airbnbs, my PadSplits for me.
Okay.
But I also am a control freak, so I get all the messages, and sometimes I respond to people.
So you're pretty hands-on.
Yeah.
What's your ideal property size or room count for successful PadSplit?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone quite, like, I'm going to try out 10, so ask me again in a year. Cool. But I like 6. Like, 6 just feels good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
For the members and for the pockets.
Yeah.
Which markets do you prefer for your PadSplit investments?
I mean, we can answer that.
Seems like Polk County.
Well, I only have one in Polk County, one in Hillsborough, one in Polk, one in Orange. But then, yeah, I'm about to open one in Sarasota.
I would say he's all of Central Florida.
I'm like Central,
from east to west.
It really is. It's just Central Florida.
I-4 corridor.
I-4 corridor.
Completely.
But until I open this one in Venice.
Yeah. What's your go-to strategy for financing PadSplit properties? If a deal came your way right now.
Yeah. I talk about this a lot with people who are interested. My ideal way to do it is get a hard money loan, renovate the house and build the equity to make it look normal, And we could go into a lot more strategy for this. I'm going to just try to keep it short. And then refinance, then stage it, refinance it to get the most equity out of it, and then convert it to a pad split after that. And a really short detail on that is when you're doing that first stage, really think through what the second stage of renovation is going to be.
That's right.
Move your air ducts where they need to go.
That's right. Add lights on the hallway.
Yeah, put any egress or windows in where they need to go, and just make it so that on the second stage you're putting up a wall or two walls and a door.
Correct. I agree.
And
That's
you'll like that over
advice,
creative financing because it helps you on the renovation costs on the second half?
I kind of mix it, actually, I guess, because I also do private loans for that second half. I've been doing private loans.
Love it.
For the second half too. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a mix.
I like it though. There's no one right answer, and so this is a great opportunity to hear how another person does.
Yeah, I mean, if you buy it where you can do a cash out refi, then I would do that. I'd rather do it that way.
Right.
But if it's not going to be like a better than a perfect burr, then getting private money for the second half makes sense.
Right. Do you prefer to renovate your property yourself, or you hire a contractor?
Yeah, I hire contractors.
Okay, and I'm sure this is like a team that you trust because you've done so many flips.
Sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. You're so unreliable.
I try to not use people that a friend of mine hasn't used.
Okay.
I was just going to ask, how do you source, without giving your contractors out, how do you source your contractors?
Yeah, I think
that's a very important question.
Okay, one thing that I love about real estate is that even though maybe technically real estate investors are competing with each other, it's also a great community of collaboration. So like a bunch of investors that I'm friends with give us people like you gave me somebody to do my renovation in Orlando. And if you bought something in Lakeland, I'd tell you who I'm going to use there. Like, I think that's a great thing, but I try to only do that for people who are doing pad splits far away from where they live. Once it's actually set up, people get scared about that. We just use Thumbtack to find people to go do like punch list. Like if a fence falls over, use like Thumbtack to find somebody to fix it.
Cool.
Okay. What is your target timeline for getting a PadSplit property ready to go live?
I'm really bad at timelines.
Okay.
So, but post refi, you should be able to get it in like a month.
I agree. It could be done a little bit sooner, but though that last mile is a long ass mile. How do you decide the weekly room rates for your PadSplit properties?
I email Ray.
What are the rates this week?
That's a great answer. Do you use a specific tool or software to manage your PadSplit properties outside of what PadSplit's platform is already offering?
I'm coughing a lot.
You're good.
Fine. I use Monday.com.
Okay.
But actually, PadSplit kind of provides what you need.
Okay. Last one. What's one feature or amenity you always include to make your PadSplit stand out?
TVs, desk, mini fridge.
Okay. Love it. Okay. We have a little bit of bonus. I think we have a little bit of time if you want to go through the bonuses.
Oh, like bonus questions?
Yeah.
Hold on, pause for
a second. Breathe, bro.
Yeah.
My throat just got so tickly.
Do you... I have a little candy. Peppermint?
I'll skip it.
Let it come out. No, you're good. We can edit this out.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. We'll just cut this second. like minute of this. On the home stretch. I need more coffee anyway. You good?
I'm ready for you. Really short answer.
What's your biggest challenge? Okay, so what's been your biggest challenge as a PadSplit investor, and how have you managed to overcome it? Or investor, it doesn't have to be PadSplit related.
Contractors are the biggest challenge, I would say.
Always. When you think you find a good one,
they find a way to disappoint you.
Yeah, they just disappear. There's a guy doing trim on my house. He's done an absolutely incredible job. The hurricane happened. He just won't answer my phone calls anymore. And I'm like, what happened. Like, I didn't do anything to offend him. I
Right.
paid him all
He
the
was
money that he needed.
paid.
The day before the hurricane, he walked through my house to go through a punch list of more stuff that I wanted done. Took a bunch of notes on it. Was like, cool, I think we can get out here next week. Day after the hurricane, he won't answer my phone call. Like, that's just a contractor thing. It's just like, that's just their subculture. Why? No idea. I do not understand it.
Like street cats.
Yeah, they are like street cats.
No, but you're right.
I
it's
saw
so
his
complicated.
crew working 5 doors down from my house.
Oh.
And I put down the window. I was like, what happened? And the guys were like, we don't know. What happened? I was like, I don't know. Ask your boss. Like, they didn't even know. They were like, I don't know. I just thought we were going to a different job.
Wow.
Contractors are the worst part, in my opinion.
Even when you find a good one, like you said, there's always a way how they end up going to a different job or disappearing. You're just like,
Yeah.
I thought we had something good going on.
What's so funny is everybody who comes through our house is like, this trim work is so amazing and like so incredible. I found this new trim guy to come finish it. And I'm like, I'm just gonna tell everybody that this last trim guy did it all. And I'm like,
Because
and
you
like,
can't even
yeah, like,
recommend the
what am I gonna?
original
Yeah,
guy.
and that's what I think is funny about contractors. I'm like, sometimes you guys are just like so anti-strategic. He could have texted me and just been like, "Hey, other jobs are paying me more money," and I would have been like, "Cool, thanks for the answer."
Right. That's all it takes.
And then I would have told people he did my trim work.
And you would have still
Yeah.
referred him more business. And I agree to that because we have so many good clients all the time that we can send referrals to, but we can't refer contractors often. They're so unreliable. It's like they work against their best interest.
They really do.
100%. We've recommended, oh God, I don't like recommending contractors anymore.
Are you still using the guy you had me use?
Yeah, he's done a lot of work. How is he?
He was good.
Okay.
A lot of change orders, but that's all right.
That's also common.
Yeah. I changed stuff. So I'm not mad at him for it.
But that's not the guy that kind of did us wrong. It's more like you'll do a project of ours, 2 projects at the same time. Midway through, you're doing really good. We recommend that person, glowing review.
Yeah.
And at the same time, drop 5 projects. And it's like,
And all the people that we referred are calling us like, hey, have you heard back? And I'm like, no, he ghosted me too.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry for doing, like referring. Like, I feel now completely ashamed for sending that referral. Like,
shame.
One
I'm like,
rule that I have, never start a contractor on more than one job.
yeah.
I've gotten screwed a lot of times by, even if somebody refers them and they're like, this is a great contractor, use them. There's been a few times where like I put them on 3 or 4 projects at the same time. And then
They
that
can't
happens.
deliver. Yeah.
And so I do have a rule that I'm like, just one, if you're going to, the first time I use somebody, it's only going to be one job.
And they overpromise too. They're like, I have all the subcontractors. I have
They lie about that.
a large team. I can manage all of it. And you're like, okay, I trust you. I don't
Yeah.
know why I decided to trust you, but
One of the things Tarl says is he's like, somebody can be a good contractor, but a bad business person. So they can promise you that, but they don't actually know how to do it because they just know how to run like a project or 2 projects.
right. And they don't know how to keep their own people happy neither.
Yeah.
So I'll get to, asking you, because you see, you're driven, obviously. You continue to educate yourself. You continue, and it's family, it seems like, but what drives you, what continues to drive you, as this is like a hard life of traveling, continuing to educate yourself, time away from family, dealing with contractors?
Yeah, there's 2 things. My family, like I want to provide for my family and leave a legacy for my kids. And then I want to give money away to nonprofits I love.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason I do it.
You want to name some nonprofits?
Mostly missionaries that I support in other countries,
Mm-hmm.
and the church I go to, Charity Water, which just builds wells for people. If you're not a Christian, you don't want to give money to Christian organizations, go look at Charity Water. And then another Christian organization in Zambia, primarily Zambia, that builds schools in rural communities and then provides I can't remember the word, like not a counselor. What do you call somebody who takes care of kids, make sure kids aren't being like abused? Like a social worker.
Like a social worker.
Like a social worker in a community, and then they educate farmers for how to produce better crops, and then basically over time, they have the like bigger generation of income in the community take over paying for the social worker and paying the schools, and then
that's awesome.
they as an organization like step out. So they help a community kind of become sufficient for themselves,
I like that.
and then take care of
That's
themselves. Yeah.
They become self-sustained.
I love that.
Anything you want to advertise or ways to reach out to you, or you're not forced to?
Yeah.
If you don't want
I don't know.
to.
I'm an agent in Central Florida. I'm an agent in Central Florida, and maybe reach out if you want to buy something. And then also if you'd be interested in joining First Deal. And that's and I've got a PadSplit referral code, but you guys should probably get it because this is your podcast.
Yeah, it's all yours.
We'll put it in the link in the description below.
Now put your own PadSplit referral code.
Yeah, but
in
First
it.
Deal, that sounds a pretty cool
First
mastermind,
Deal,
honestly. So the requirements are like first time investor, or there's
technically anybody could join it.
Okay.
But it is actual Brandon Turner getting on the calls
And it's
once a
an
week.
accountability as well, you know.
Yeah, it's fun. It is. It's a cool accountability.
I love that. Michael, thank you for being here. Thank you for opening up, sharing your portfolio, your personal life, everything.
Yeah, my pleasure. And anybody interested in PadSplit, you just need to request that these two people be your PadSplit reps.
I'm glad I didn't have to say that.
You heard that.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Great episode as well. We keep bringing some fire guests. Like I'm proud of us. I love what we do.
Thanks for tuning into the Coliving with PadSplit podcast hosted by Ray and Oriana Nunez. For more exclusive content and community updates, join our Facebook group and follow us on all social media platforms. Stay tuned for more episodes.